Okay, so you learned an interesting tool called Pandas profiling, where you in just 3 lines of code you could understand the data in and out. Correct? So after profiling, what you did, whatever the issues what Pandas profiling showed you, you made a note of it, and then you did all the cleaning. You remove unnecessary data, remove irrelevant data, correct your data. Okay. Once that is done, just to confirm whether all the changes has been taken place, you did one more profiling. Correct? You guys have any doubts till here? Samantha, any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Could you guys install Pandas profiling in your Anaconda? Rahul? Shaina?
I didn't do it, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
I will do that later. Pandas profile.
Okay. But you understand the concepts clearly, right?
Yes, sir. We'll do it later.
Okay, because if you do not understand, and this class is going to be a little difficult for you.
Oh,
Okay, so after post profiling, once you know that everything is clear with your data, this is the step where you do your EDA. So all these steps is nothing but your EDA, that is exploratory data analysis. Now EDA can be done it in using two techniques. Okay, basically you can do the EDA using two techniques. The first is based on the understanding of the data and your understanding of problem definition. You make a note of all the right questions. Okay, you make a note of all the right questions and you keep on asking it. Keep on asking the questions and try to understand what exactly the data will throw out. Okay, and the second aspect is that you do analysis based on univariate, your bivariate, your multivariate. You do your analysis based on your univariate, bivariate, and your multivariate. Let's say that you have different columns. This will be column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So what you do is, in your univariate, you analyze individual columns. The columns could be either your numeric or your categorical. Okay. So in your univariate, if it is a categorical, you do a, what do you do if it is a categorical?
so I don't see the screen. I'm unable to see the screen, sir.
1 minute.
Okay.
It's still... How about now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I was explaining you about the okay. Okay. Are you guys able to see now?
Yes, sir. From
Yes,
just
sir.
the Jupyter notebook, that screen was getting present.
Some issue with the share.
Yeah.
I think I didn't share my whole screen. I just shared the notebook. Okay. So as I was explaining, you had made a note of these 9 points in your last class. Okay. So we did all the aspect for your McDonald's data set. Your McDonald's data set, we did EDA. It was a case study. We are now working on a first case study, that is your McDonald's data set. In your McDonald's data set, we have completed your problem definition, you're choosing right tools, you're collecting the data, you're doing pre-profile, then you do all sorts of cleaning, and then you do the post-profile. Okay, so after post-profiling, the last three part, that is, you're asking the right question, you're giving a conclusion or a summary, and also you're giving actionable insights on what the data could go to or what the data is suggesting you. Okay, that is done using the EDA part. Okay, are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So in EDA, you can do the EDA basically in two ways. The first way is you, based on this experience, you're going to note down all the possible questions. Okay, and you try to ask the right question to the data so that the data gives you the desired output and you can make your conclusion and summarization. Okay, and the second way is your analysis based on univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. Okay, so in the second way, what you are going to do is, let's say that you have 5 columns in your first univariate analysis. In your univariate analysis, you are analyzing individual columns. Okay, the columns could be your categorical or numerical here. Let's say that the column number 1 is your categorical column. What visualization can you use for your univariate analysis?
For the categorical, we can plot.
For the categorical, either you can use a bar plot or a pie chart. Correct? Basically, you will understand how the distribution of different categories is. Correct? Now, let's say that column number 2 is your continuous data. Okay. So, what visualization tool do you use for continuous data?
Maybe histogram.
A histograph. You can use a histograph, or you can use a KDE, kernel distribution, or using Seaborn disk plot. You can use combination of both. Correct? So in your univariate, you're going to do individual analysis and draw your conclusions. The next part is your bivariate, where you're going to analyze the behavior of these two, how these two are related, how these two are related, how these two, and this. Got it? Okay. So once you do this, then you choose the second column and see the behavior here. Then you choose the third column, see the behavior here. Choose the fourth, check the behavior here. So you're doing all sorts of permutation combinations here so that you arrive at a right conclusion. So when you do this, you will understand each and every hidden truth about all your data. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Shaina, is it clear to you?
Yes.
So coming to the last one, that is your multivariate. So what you're going to do is, basically in your last class, you learned about a concept, how do you represent more features in your 2D chart. Correct? You guys learned how do you represent more features in a 2D plot. Let's say that you have a simple scatter plot. Okay. And you have to represent different features in this scatter plot. That can be done through shape, size, and what is the last one?
Color.
The color. Okay, the shape could be, you can go with the plus, you can go with the star, you can go with the triangle, square, circle. The size could be, you can have a smaller circle showing that it's a baby, bigger circle showing that it's a teenager, and a bigger one showing it's an adult. Color could be your different colors what I showed here. Okay, so what exactly you're doing here is, let's say that you have two numerical columns. You basically plot a scatter plot. Then to understand the relationship between these two and the third column, let's say the third column is categorical, you introduce it through a function called hue. Hue equal to, you specify the column name. Okay, is it clear? So this is just for your basic understanding. Once we do more case studies, it will be clear to you. Okay. Now, in this case study, basically, which type of approach we are doing? Anybody have any idea? Rahul, you have any idea?
No, sir.
Here, we are asking all the questions. Okay, basically what we are doing it here is, we are doing a combination of both. We are doing uni, your bi and multi, and parallelly we have arranged all the analysis in uni, bi and multi. Under uni, we are asking all the suitable questions which define the columns. Under bi, we ask suitable questions which define the relationship between two variables, and multi, it is defining multiple variables. Okay, something like how many stores are actually owned by McDonald's. You can see it, we are using with the one particular column, like top time outlets with the terms of profit. Correct. So analysis based on outlet metrics, based on nutrition. Okay, and here basically you might have encountered in your college days that normally the lectures or the exercises what they learn in class are the easy ones, and what you get for your homework are the difficult ones. Correct. But here we are showing you the most difficult EDS so that your homework becomes easy. Okay, so you learn from difficult questions so that you will know how to analyze the simplest of the data sets. Okay, is it clear?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
coming to the packages, we are importing the packages, and these things we have completed during the last class only. I'll just run through it. We imported two data sets and then we merged them. It is one-on-one merging. After merging, we saw the info and we noticed that there were few columns which had 0. I think we deleted here itself. We deleted phone number here itself. Okay, and we checked for a describe. After that, we did profiling, and we noted on what was the issue with the data set. Okay, after that, we deleted the features which were not important. We rounded off the decimal points because there were too many decimal places in certain columns, correct? Then we converted certain columns to your integer values, because your customers and number of employees were fraction here. They were fraction here, and we converted them to integer. There was an issue with the serve size because the word G, the letter G was arriving, even though the headings itself says that it's in grams. Okay, so we corrected these small aspects. Even sodium had some hyphen, so it was showing the column as a object and not as a categorical column. In the end, we did one more round of pre-profiling, post-profiling. Okay. Now, for our EDA, we separate the idea of data analysis with respect to the themes for this EDA. Now, EDA is something like EDA is something where the it is the primary job of any data analyst. Okay, and nobody is going to question you on which method or which flow you're going to use it on your storytelling, but ultimately it should be clear enough for everyone. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about if you have to follow a particular rule or if you have to follow a particular structure. It's based on what dataset you select and what methodologies you follow. But ultimately, you have to maintain a clear flow so that any user who he even doesn't know the EDA will understand what the flow is or how the storytelling is. EDA is all about your storytelling. Okay. So in this particular data set, we are going to theme. You're going to use themes for our analysis. So based on the problem definition, what is the problem definition? You guys remember from the last class? That is based on cultural and geographical differences, how McDonald's can develop in developing countries. So we are comparing the data from US, which is a developed country, with respect to India, which is a developing country, and understand what better McDonald's can do in India in order to gain more revenues. Okay, so based on the problem statement, we are going to theme it into three aspects. One is your geography, second one is your store level, and the third one is your nutrition level. Okay, but if you look at the data set also has the details on revenue. If I can show it here, that is if I can show it here, let me give a head. The dataset also has revenue and profits. Revenue, profit, your selling price, cost price, gross margin. Okay. So your dataset also has revenue, but we are not going to theme it with respect to revenue because this is not the case. I mean, McDonald's is not looking for this. Basically, it wants to understand the differences between these two countries so that they can grow better. So this is the goal for them. This is the end goal for them. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So the problem statement is different. Okay. Now coming to these teams, at store level, if I combine with nutrition, so I can understand the taste of people within country and in India and US. So I can understand the difference between the two countries and understand what people prefer in different countries. Got it? So I'm going to analyze all the three aspects separately, okay, and then together using your univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. That is what we are going to do in this case study. So before we do it, I'll tell you why we are going to, or why we need to do it. So while doing EDA, what happens is not every problem statement is caught in profiling part. When you do your profiling, when you do your cleaning and understanding the data, not every problem is caught in the profiling part. But when you ask the right questions or explore through each and every column and each and every minute details in your EDA, you will come across certain issues or certain challenges which requires you to once again clean your data set. So I have to go back to your data cleaning, fix the problem and come back and ask the right question. So you slice it and dice it, you reshape it, you fix it. So all these ideas will start popping when you start analyzing your data. So when you do your profiling, you may not know in and out of your data, but during EDA, you will come across all the details of your data, even the smallest of the problems. So EDA will help you to achieve that, fixing your data in such a level that you can possibly make it so good that you can feed it to a machine to do your analysis or to your predictions. So EDA is basically your precursor to machine learning. So the first thing what you're going to do is you're going to learn EDA, you're going to work with your project. Once you complete the project, we are going to start with machine learning so that you will understand how the right flow should be. Okay. Now the second part is to maximize your insight about the data. So just think about it. If you do not understand your data, okay, and you give it to a machine to predict the outcome, what do you think the machine will do? Garbage in, garbage out. Correct? You have fed garbage to the machine and it has thrown out a processed garbage. So as an analyst, if you are not sure what your data means and what it is capable of, do not expect any of your machine learning algorithms to work. Okay. Coming to the EDA. So these are the specific points, okay, what an analyst would want to extract from the data set during your EDA. Okay. So let us understand these points one by one. The first part is a list of outliers. Okay. Now, the age column has the number 200. Okay. You will understand this better than a machine if it is an outlier or not. Correct? Let's suppose if you are analyzing the data set of certain animals and you have the age of tortoise as 200, this is totally a correct data set. but you are analyzing the dataset of an employees where the age is 200. That means there is a typo error. Correct? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
So it is up to you to decide whether the dataset has outliers or not. Coming to the second one, that is a good fitting model. This is something you may not understand it right away, but I'll still give you a small brief about it. Okay. If your dataset is linearly distributed, let me just change the color. If your dataset is linearly distributed, okay, that means something like this. So a simple linear regression would solve your problem. Okay. Now, if your dataset is distributed based on conditions, let's say that you have certain points here and then you have certain points here. Okay. Based on this condition, you can divide it whether it comes in this particular category or this category. Then further, it is divided into some more points here based on some more condition. You can use tree-based algorithms, basically decision tree or your random forest models, to understand the predictions. Okay. Now, if your dataset is overlapping, let's say your dataset is overlapping, points are everywhere. Okay. You need complex algorithms like your support vector machines. And when your dataset is extremely complicated, you have to move forward with something like your deep learning or AI. You're basically your neural networks. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, coming to the next point, that is estimates of parameters. So when you understand the dataset well enough, you will know which algorithm would be best fit for you. Okay. So what, let's say that you use one particular algorithm. Let's say you use your linear regression as your algorithm to fit your data. But even in linear regression, you need to build a detailed algo where you need to fine tune the parameters. You need to fine tune your parameters. Okay. So you need to be able to understand the parameter. If you understand the dataset very clearly, you will know which parameters you can fine tune them. Okay. So what should be the ideal values for the parameters, and if there is a lot of gap, or if the margin is too high, all that we can understand with this estimate. Okay. Now coming to uncertainties of estimates. So when you see the data, let's say you have class A and you have class B. Okay. Now let's say there is one more point which is here, that is close to the boundary. Okay, close to the boundary. Now what is this point? What problem can it create? Should I change the boundary from this to this, or even to this? So all these uncertainties you can make sense through your EDA. Okay. Coming to the next point, that is rank list of important factors. So we can make sense of the correlated features. If you remember, the features are highly correlated. It will be something like this. So in this example, during the last class, we saw that total fat and energy were tightly knit features. So higher the fat, more is the, more likely that the food will give you high energy. Correct? So you'll understand the totally tightly knit parameters. So during your machine learning, you can decide which feature you can drop it, because having both the features in place would bias your model. Both are actually trying to tell the same thing. And coming to conclusions on whether an individual factor is statistically significant. Again, these are part of your correlation, that how important is the one factor with respect to the other factor. Like we did heat map in your last class. Coming to the sense of robustness of conclusion. That is, if your data is very close to each other, something like this, where all your points are very close to each other, then your prediction will be very high. You are more confident that on predicting certain points. So let's say that when your data points are everywhere, if you use a linear regression, predicting certain points would be with less confidence. Okay. Coming to the last point, that is optimal settings. This is once again linked to estimate of parameters. So good fitting model should have what type of optimal settings, all related to that. Are you guys clear on this? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So basically what you have to understand is, in EDA, it looks like I am asking certain questions, but once you learn machine learning, you will realize that you have to also ask questions in a different way, which suits your end goal of creating machine learning model to automate your work and for the project. Okay. So I told you that we'll start with univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. So here today's class, we are going to only focus on your univariate analysis, and bivariate and multivariate maybe something we can see it in the next class. Okay. Now, so inside the univariate, what we will do is we will fit our data set with the economic factor, your social factor, and your nutrition factor. Okay. Now coming to the analysis, that is the univariate analysis, where you're going to analyze only the individual columns, and we are asking all the right questions to the model. So if you see here, the first column would be your store name or store, all the three aspects, which talks only about the store. So what we are going to do is we are going to understand how many stores that are actually owned by McDonald's. So what I do is I select the ownership type. I want to understand basically how the ownership is in India, and I see value underscore counts. I get this, that is how many are company owned, how many are licensed, and how many are joint venture. Correct? So the first question I would ask is, can MACD own a store, and can MACD have 100% ownership of a store in India? The answer is no. So the MACD can only do licensed or joint venture in India. So does anybody have, what is the next question? Once you know this distribution, what would be the next question you're going to ask? Basically, you might ask,
Which,
If these are my stores, I want to see where and all they are located.
yeah, which places?
But checking the stores with respect to location would be your bivariate analysis, not your univariate analysis. So I just suggest you to don't jump into things and keep it simple. Let us take it step by step. Okay. So once I have this data on how the distribution is with respect to ownership type, I plot it using a pie chart. Okay. You guys remember this code, right? When we did donut chart, we use the same code. There is no difference here. Okay. I plot it using a pie chart. I observe that around 24.1% is your joint venture. So I make a note of it. Okay. Further, I move on and I start check which outlet generate maximum revenue to the company. Okay. Basically here, this case study has a lot of lines of code just to get this, because Plotly gives you this unique layout to understand how you can plot it on a global scale and see where exactly the points would be. But is this necessary? At present, for your learning stage, this is not necessary. What I can do is, I want to understand outlet generate maximum revenue for a company. All I can do is I can draw a bar chart. Correct? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One more specific what I can check here is when I checked the top 10, when I check the top 10 outlets which are giving maximum revenue, I see that all are in US. All 10 are from US location. Correct? So US ideally generates much more revenue than Indian stores. Are you guys clear on this? Basically, what I can do is you call the data set. Okay. You want to see which has sort. You sort them. In sorting, basically you have ascending equal to true because it sorts in ascending manner. Correct? You make it false, it sorts in descending order. You pass this into, sorry, df underscore mouse, no, into the data set. 1 minute. You get the index, correct? Or you choose from starting to 10 values. You need top 10, right? And take the index. And this index dot these indices I follow through. I use ilog. and I get my data set back. Is it clear to you guys? Any doubts? Rahul, any doubts? Samantha, Shaina?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is the code looking complicated? If you feel it looks complicated, that means you're lagging practice. You're not practicing enough. Okay. Now, the same concept I apply to top 10 outlets in terms of profit. So instead of revenue here, I choose the column revenue here. Instead of revenue, I just change it to profits and the code remains the same. I choose the profit, and once again I understand that US gives the highest profit. So this map is called Chloropath map. Okay. Coming to the outlets with highest number of employees. Okay. I use the same concept once again. Same number of codes. Only thing is I change the column name. That's all. Correct. And I get the outlets. Once again, it's from employees. So whenever you get more revenue, that means you need to have more employees stationed there. Correct? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
You guys want to take a break? Let's take a break and come back at 12:30.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Is everyone back? Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Shaina, are you
Yes,
back?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in the previous discussion, we came to the realization as when it comes to your revenue, or when it comes to profit, or when it comes to your number of employees, I think it is, yeah, number of employees, US was standing on the top. Okay, so any idea why? Any guesses? So one of the primary reason is that India has many varieties for breakfast. If you consider one of the categories such as breakfast, India has multiple varieties. You have idli, dosa, vada pav, pongal, lot of things. But whereas in US, so bread is one of the stable batch for breakfast. Correct? You have burgers, bread, salad, beef. All these are uh, popular in US. So McDonald's technically serves those items in which US people technically loves to eat regularly. But in India, we have more than 500 varieties of items. So one thing I can straightforward and say is in US, that is in US, the revenue is more because bread is preferred more over breakfast as opposed to India. Okay. Now coming to the next topic, we were here at when it comes to customer footfall, to understand the top 10 customers visiting the stores, like which stores has the highest number of customers visiting. So I use the same code as I used before. I run the same code and I plot it. So just that in the plot, I use the scope as world instead of US. So here, if you see scope I used as USA, I just change it to world and I change the column name to customer. How do I do that? Why did I do that? While analyzing the top 10 column, I understood that there are two stores from Mumbai and there's one in Delhi where you have highest footfall of customers. So I get the output something like this, or you can use a simple bar chart to show the same. Okay, coming to the nutrition aspect. Okay, now which is the most common category on the menu? So as I said earlier, I can use a bar chart to compare the values, and I use bar chart here. So I use group by and categorize to oh sorry. I use the category. I apply group by on the category. After applying group by, I choose best selling item. Okay, this is the best selling item. I choose best selling item and I do the ordering. Okay, and I end up getting this chart. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what do you notice here?
Hot beverages have the maximum demand.
Hot beverages, yes, correct. Hot beverages is highest sold item, close to 99 items. So what you can make out from this is in McDonald's, breakfast is one of the important aspect. So there are a lot of varieties like breakfast. Okay. What you can do is sorry, there are a lot of varieties like breakfast. You have cold beverages, you have smoothies, you have chicken, fish, you have desserts. Okay. So if you see the top 5, you have hot beverages. Top 5, you have cold beverages, you have smoothies, you have chicken and fish. Okay. So technically hot beverages is one with highest number of varieties. Okay. That is important. Now, I want to understand nutrition from calorie perspective. Okay. So earlier we saw the most common preferred categories. Now I want to understand the nutrition point of view or calorie point of view. Okay. So what I do is I use a group by one category once again. Instead of choosing best selling item, I choose energy. Okay. And I do the plotting. Okay. What do you understand here?
Chicken and fish have maximum calories.
Correct. You have chicken and you have sandwiches and wraps. Then you have breakfast, you have beef and pork. These are having highest number of calories. So if you think carefully, if you understand the data very clearly, what you can make out is these top 4 items, the chicken and fish. Does the McD serve fish in India? No, they don't serve.
No.
You have chicken and fish, you have sandwiches and wraps, you have breakfast, you have beef and pork. Once again, McD doesn't serve beef in India or
No.
neither pork. So all these top 4 items having highest calorie are sold in US. Correct? They are very specific to US and we are not seeing it in India. Okay. Now, there's one more aspect like we want to check, is there any difference in nutrition value of grilled and crispy chicken? Okay. So with respect to nutrition, we want to understand whether there is a difference between grilled and crispy. So what I do is I create a column called grilled, and what it basically does is I'm creating a column called grilled. If the best selling item has the word grilled in it, okay, it gives a true here, else it will enter as false. Okay, so I convert it and I also apply the same for crispy also. Okay, and then after doing that, what I do is I plot it the chicken with respect to the different chicken with respect to the fat. So once I separate grilled and crispy, what I do is I take the word grilled or take the word crispy out of it so that it comes as a single category, and then I plot it. Okay. So once I plot, what I understand is your grilled fat, your grilled chicken or grilled item has around 1.5 times lower fat than your crispy items. Correct? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If you look carefully, if you understand these items carefully, the names are almost the same. Just that there is a word grilled in one item in your best selling item. Okay, there is a word grilled in one of the some few of the items, and there is the word crispy in other items. Apart from that, the names are one and the same. Okay, so I understand what is the difference between this grilled and crispy. With that, I get a plot saying that your grilled fat is much better or much healthier than your crispy food item. So this is called your bucketing and comparing. So now, what is the benefit of eating grilled versus crispy?
To remain healthy, that is less fat.
That is, eating grilled gives you low calories, low fat. So on the other hand, what is the benefit of eating crispy or over grilled?
To gain more fat.
Not to gain, nobody wants to gain. It is depends on the taste.
Yes, sir.
The grilled kind of, you kind of lose the taste, right? When you take crispy, you get that nice taste. Correct? Okay. Any doubts in this?
No, sir.
So if you are feeling quite difficult when there's coding, I'm not suggesting you to follow the same code with your EDO also. These are kind of like slightly on the higher end when it comes to coding. You don't have to stress your mind on too much on the coding. What I suggest is you can make a separate notebook where whenever you come across certain codes which are little difficult and but also they are quite useful, you can make a note of all the codes. You can keep that notebook in handy everywhere whenever you're working on any problem. No? You can just keep the notebook in handy anyway, and what you have to do is you have to just copy paste the codes, so that you don't have to break so much of your head, or you don't have to stress yourself when it comes to coding. Okay, you can just copy paste the code, change the column headers, and run it. Okay, now coming to the category of sugars. Okay, I want to understand the distribution of sugars. So we started off with the healthy ideas such as energy, and now we are getting into unhealthy ideas, that is starting with sugar. Then we can see fat. Okay, we are getting into unhealthy ideas now. Okay, now with respect to your sugar, which item has highest sugar?
Smoothies and shakes.
Smoothies.
Correct. Your beverages, especially your beverages and shakes, and even your dessert has highest number of sugars. Which has the lowest?
The snacks items like chicken wings.
Chicken
They
wings,
have,
nuggets.
no, they
Correct.
don't have sugar itself.
They don't have sugar. So ultimately what we are trying to do is we are trying to compare we are trying to understand which food has a good nutrition content and which food has not so good nutrition or sugar or any other aspect. And ultimately, we are trying to come up with the category which is fairly healthy. Correct? Ultimately I need a summary of what kind of food is good and what kind of food is bad. So later on we can go on higher dimension and check geographically if these food items are available only in India or these food items are available only in US to see if McD is serving healthy food in India or not. Correct? So geographically you will see which place do you see better kind of food being served. Okay, so technically you can see an exponential growth here. Okay, after cold beverages and hot beverages, you can see an exponential growth for smoothies. So technically these are very dangerous food item in McDonald's. Your smoothies, your beverages, correct? Okay. You'd also like to understand later that in which country which is more popular. That would be interesting to know, like which category of food be popular. So coming to what sort of food and beverages to manufacture, including fiber. Now fiber is something which is on the good side part of the nutrition, correct? You need dietary fibers for your digestion and other aspects with respect to the stomach. We check the data set with respect to the dietary fiber and we plot a box plot. Okay, what I basically do is I use X as category and Y as dietary fiber and I use a box plot. Now, study this box plot carefully. I'll give you 15 seconds, okay? And tell me which food item has highest dietary fiber, which food items has lowest dietary fibers. Any answers?
Salad
Salad
has
is highest.
Correct. Salad has highest dietary fibers and
then the remaining, so condiments,
Desserts.
Desserts.
your
cold
desserts,
beverages,
cold beverages, your condiments all has
yes.
lowest dietary
Low.
fibers. So dietary fibers in technical aspect should be more or should be less in healthy food?
should be more, or yeah, it should be more, sir.
It should be more, right, to improve your digestion.
Yeah,
Which is the second highest after salad? Salad was an easy answer. Which is the second highest?
sandwiches and wraps.
Yes, correct. Basically, you're comparing the median, correct?
Medium.
If you plot an imaginary line and see which median line is closest to this particular line, you will understand which is ranking the second. So apart from this, most of them are on lower side below. I say 4. So we came to know that salad is being higher fiber item. Now the question is, the question what should stuck in your mind is salad being served in India? No, right? It's not served in India. Would you want to include it here to check whether it is served in India or not? It comes in bivariant, right? You are checking category versus the location that comes in bivariant. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Coming to the next part, that is okay. Coming to the next part, that is nutritious versus non-nutritious food. Okay. So any food that is good in protein and dietary fiber, for me it's a nutritious food. Okay. I define separate new variable. Any food that has protein, high amount of protein and high dietary fiber is nutritious for me. And anything that has high total fat or high saturated fat, basically your fats and your cholesterol, is very non-nutritious food. Okay, so I create two columns of nutrition, non-nutritious. Okay, and I add these values. Technically you're supposed to scale it before you add it, like we did in the previous class for your parallel coordinates. But here we'll take a chance and we'll move forward without doing any scaling. Did you guys understand this concept? So I want to, what I'm trying to do is I am trying to score each and every food item with respect to nutritious and not non-nutritious and see how the score is. So technically, as we discussed in some time back, we want to understand which categories would be highly nutritious and which food will have very low nutrition. And if you want to suggest a good healthy diet, healthy food in McDonald's, what combination would you prefer? That is what we are trying to do here. Correct? So in order to do that, what I want to do is I need to find out the score of nutritious food and the non-nutritious food. So I create two separate columns, nutritious and non-nutritious, in my analysis. Okay. So what I do is I will take top 10. I'll take top 10 values of nutritious food and top 10 values of non-nutritious food. Okay. Top 10 value of nutritious food, top 10 in non-nutritious food, and see how the distribution is. Okay. So which combination of food would you recommend to a friend? Basically your top 5 part of nutritious, your top 5 part of nutritious and bottom 5 part of non-nutritious, right?
Yes.
So is there a food that overlaps here? Is there a food that overlaps here? Maybe I'll just copy this image and paste it here. Come back here, I copy this. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Any overlap?
Yes, sir. The first one, big breakfast with the hot cakes.
Big breakfast with hot flakes is in the both.
Even the second, third one, sir. Third or fourth one, which is
That is with hot cakes, no? With hot cakes, and this is just a big breakfast.
yeah. One is regular biscuit. That is also repeated.
That's fine. That's a different item. But technically, if I want to understand or if I have to suggest it to any friend, so what I understand here is big breakfast with hot cake is just as good as it is bad. Correct? It is
Yes, sir.
it is in equilibrium between nutritious and non-nutritious food. Correct? Technically, if I have to suggest a food to someone, it should be under top 5 here and bottom 5 here. Correct? But this is not the reason you go to McDonald's, right? So if this is the case in US, okay, that some items are very popular, maybe that is one of the prime reason to in India also that we are not being able to achieve the same popularity. We are not saying that is McD is not serving these dishes at all. That is the dishes which are having high nutrition content. So at least what based on the data set what we have, let us see what patterns we can find. Okay. Now I plot. I want to understand the distribution of proteins. Okay, like which food item has the highest number of proteins. I end up getting that is chicken McNugget. Okay, I have chicken McNuggets has highest number of proteins. Okay, now is protein as the good side of nutrition or the bad side of nutrition?
Good side, sir.
The good side, right? Okay, and I note down the categories. It's quite evident that most proteinous item that is on the menu is this one, chicken McNuggets. Okay. Do I do any changes in the code? It's basically the same code what I used earlier, but here I use the scatter, not the scatter geo. This is a scatter plot basically on the geographical map. This is basically a simple scatter plot. Okay. So coming to the geographical information. Okay. We'll check it. Which city has the highest number of McDonald's outlets per capita? Okay. So what I do is I select city and do the value counts. I choose top 10 of them and do a bar chart. So I understand that Mumbai has highest number of outlets, followed by New Delhi, then Bangalore, then Pune, then Gurgaon. And here comes the surprise. The number of outlets in cities, that is per capita in a city is lesser compared to India. But still, in US, you have higher revenue. Any reason why?
Because of the population.
not because of the population. You have to think in aspect like, does MACD operate in the same way as they operate in India?
No, sir.
So basically in India, where is MACD located normally?
Especially the developed smart cities.
Basically in your malls, correct?
Yes, sir.
Basically in your malls or any of the
Yeah, where
food
people
streets,
come in huge numbers.
correct? But in US, the difference is
It's all
that
over
it is
the
basically drive-through,
roadside and
correct? People normally they drive through MACD, they order it and they carry it. They drive it to MACD through the car and they take it directly. They don't have to. They don't sit and eat the food or something. Correct? One more question I would ask is: any idea why India has so many stores?
so could you repeat?
Why does India has so many stores with respect to US? If you think it is because of population, it's not because of population. It's basically the answer is consumption. But if you compare India and US, which country has the highest consumption?
It's actually US, sir.
US, yes. When we saw the revenue chart, we understood that
Yeah.
top 10 revenue making cities are all located in US,
But
or
here
the top 10
in
revenue
India,
making
it's
stores.
population and consumption both, right?
Here, the more answer would be consumption rather than population. So in India, the question is, if the consumption is lesser when it with respect to US, why do you think you should add more number of stores?
To gain popularity.
It will once again go back to the same answer. That is, how does people go to a MACD with respect to India and with respect to US? So in US, technically your population is willing to drive through a store. So you did not put more number of stores. People are willing to drive wherever the store is located. Correct? But in India, the reason is so many stores, the people walk through it. Correct? And people prefer when they walk through it, people prefer the stores to be closer to where they stay or where they work. Correct? That means MACD should have more number of stores in India. And one more last interesting point in this is Mumbai has already so many number of stores, more than 25 number of stores. It's close to 27, I feel. But still, MACD still wants to expand their operations. Correct? Mumbai has the highest number of stores with respect to any other city. Still, MACD wants to add more number of stores. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So coming to outlets per capita. So this is basically state-wise count on which state has the highest number of stores. So you have the count and you have the different states. So one more interesting to note here is when we did city-wise, we had Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, and your Gurgaon, correct? Different cities coming on top and followed by your Washington, correct? But when you did state-wise, you have Kansas, you have Florida, you have Texas, correct? And in the end, you have Maharashtra on the top. So when you did city wise, almost 7 out of 10 were of India, right? But when you did state wise, only 2 out of 10 are India. You have Delhi and Delhi, Maharashtra. Correct? So technically not every state is serving McDonald's food. One more aspect is we need to look at it from states where, that is we need to look at the states where it should introduce McDonald's. So you can just plot it and understand that India being a bigger country has very limited number of locations for McD. Are you guys with me? Is it clear? So basically we'll understand that not all the states in India has McDonald's stores located in the particular state. So what you can suggest is you can ask you can one of the point to conclude or one of the actionable insights would be to open the stores in different states, basically the smart cities in the particular state. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is where I stop my conclusion here. I mean my analysis here. Okay, there's one more aspect, that is you are checking. Yeah, one more thing I missed to tell you guys. If you notice here in India, there are hardly any points. But if you look at US map now, it looks like US map got some chicken pox or something. So many stores available in every state. Correct? Correct? You make a note here. Unlike India, the outlets in US are spread out throughout the country and not limited to big cities. This is something that is lagging in India, right? So this is where I stop for today. And in the next class, we are going to focus on your bivariate and multivariate analysis. You guys have any doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So what I suggest you guys is you guys are lagging a lot of practice. You need to practice a lot. Okay. And I understand that you guys are busy in your academics and a lot of your regular academic subjects coming in more priority, but at least allot some part of your time to do your analysis. Okay. You already have your projects in hand. So basically at least try to spend half an hour on the project so that you get the hold of the topic. Okay, so whatever you guys are studying is does not even cover a small dot in the world of data science. Data science has too much to offer, and every day there are new things coming up. So what tool you learned yesterday will not be valid today. There will be new tool with a much improved version today. Okay. So if you have any doubts, you can stay back, or else you can drop off for the day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rahul.